All right, we'll open the closed session meeting, June 10th, 2024. Time is 4:30. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable.
Here.
Mayor Bieber.
Here.
Absent from tonight's meeting is Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, ma'am. Public comment?
We have no comments.
Thank you. We'll move into closed sessions. Time is still 4:30.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the June 10th City Council meeting, Successor Agency meeting, and Housing Authority meeting for the City of Yucaipa. We will call this meeting to order. The time is 6:02, and I will ask that Captain Walker please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Captain. Madam City Clerk, will you please call roll?
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Councilmember Thorpe.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable.
Here.
Mayor Bieber.
Here.
Absent from tonight's meeting is Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. City Attorney, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, Mayor. Item A, the City Council gave settlement direction by a vote of 3-1. Councilmember Venable voting no. No reportable action on item B. On item C, the City Council gave settlement direction by a vote of 4-0. And we did not conclude our discussion on item D, and it is my understanding that the City Council will recess back into closed session at the end of open session. I don't anticipate a reportable action out on that item, but if there is one, I will give it at the next regular City Council meeting.
Thank you, sir. Mr. City Manager, are we changing anything on the agenda this evening?
No changes, sir.
Thank you. Moving on, our school superintendent is here, and this is our special presentations portion of the evening. Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Beaver, and nice to see you, City Council. I appreciate the opportunity tonight. This is a celebration. I wanted to be able to come. We just graduated our last school Wednesday night, Yucaipa High School. You probably heard the fireworks. And it seemed like the right time to come and share all the positive things that are going on in our community. And we partner not only with the City of Calimesa, but of course with the City of Yucaipa. We have a lot of wonderful things going, and I wanted to take a moment to highlight them and highlight your team that we have the privilege of working with. So we'll just start by saying there's an ed code that says in loco parentis. And so what that means for us is we are the parents while the students are with us. And so we have that great honor. I feel like the chief mom in the group. So to over 8,000 students, I have the opportunity to support them during the day through our staff. And we have over 1,000 employees, so we're a very large employer in the community. But I'm happy to say that probably 65% of our employees live in this area. So we are that great community feel that, that everyone strives for. So I'm excited to share that information because I'm not sure that you've maybe heard that before. But what I really want to talk about is just the opportunity I've had to work with your team. So community services has been one of them. I had the opportunity to go on Friday and address your team that was there for their annual conference, and get to speak with them about how we are all ordinary people doing great things for kids. And that includes all of your employees, and I'll talk a little about them individually if you don't mind, Mayor. That would be great. Not individually as people, but individually as a group, or we would be here all night. So, you know, in this community, we have a great opportunity because we do have that small town feel, and so we get to collaborate in ways that most people don't get to in a large community. Not only do we get to highlight our partnerships that extend with community services, but they are beyond as well. So I'll start with our joint collaboration. I know the City Council is well aware that we have for a long time have joint collaboration meetings with the City of Yucaipa, City of Calimesa, the Water District, as well as Crafton Hills College and the district. And so in those meetings, we work with everyone from Fermin and his team to Megan and her team, your city manager, as well as your assistant city manager, to make sure that when we're doing work, we do it systematically and we don't overlap over each other. So if Fermin's going to tear up a road that we're going to put something new in or something that affects the school district, we do it together, and it saves money and it saves time and it saves inconvenience. Those things are well planned as we go through the process of those joint collaboration meetings. And so we talk about students and where they need to be and how we need to get them there. We talk about sidewalks and how we can support you with grants. We talk about the things that really do help to make the community better. One of the things that I wanted to highlight was the understanding of CERT, the Community Emergency Response Team Training. So we mandate that all of our admin team are CERT trained, and we get as many of our employees to volunteer. We're able to pay them to do that training. And what our goal is to take the burden off of emergency services so that if there were to be some kind of disaster in our communities, that we would be able to be as self-sufficient as possible. So I would like to thank the City of Yucaipa for continuing to host those and allowing us to be a part of them. Along with that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the partnership that we have with Captain Walker and his team and Chief Malinowski. What we're doing now is something pretty extraordinary, and I don't know any districts that are doing this to the extent that we are. And so part of that is just working together to be the best prepared that we can. And so we have worked through the process with Calimesa Fire, CAL FIRE, both entities, whether it's Riverside County and San Bernardino County, to sit down together and ask our first responders, what is it that you need for us to give you so that you can respond? So whether it's Knox box keys that need to be replaced, or a mapping system, or it's the language that we use in our standard operation procedures so that we can communicate well. It has been a highlight of our last 2 years doing this collaboration on a quarterly basis, and we are getting to the point where we're a pretty well-oiled machine with Trevor Benson hosting an active shooter training coming up at the high school. And so with that, I want to thank you for their time because I know they have many other things that they could be doing, but they're serving our kids, and we are better for it. We are working on joining the ham radio population as well so that when something, I won't say when, if something, looking for some wood, if something happens that we have been trained by the professionals and that we can step up to the plate. And so we've had that opportunity. We also partner with our Sheriff's Department on the bicycle rodeo and have been invited again to the National Night Out, and we love doing those events. And then also want to thank the Sheriff's Department and CAL FIRE for their participation in our Law and Public Safety Academy's disaster drill at the high school. So we have students rappelling off buildings, going into staged electrical fires. We have explosives going on where our kids are learning how to go into buildings and take out those that have fallen or those that are alive. I mean, just amazing simulations, and we couldn't do it without their participation. We recently just had the drunk driving program with CHP that came out, and it was a cooperation of many entities, police and fire. Those memories stick with our students for a lifetime, and if you got to go through that program, you would remember that. So those are some of the things that your team is doing to help us on an annual basis. Also, I have to thank you for Deputy Perez and Deputy Jones, two of the best school resource officers I've ever worked with. And I didn't know my husband was coming, and he was a school resource officer where we met, but I'm going to say it anyway, sorry. They are phenomenal. We have a stop-it system for anonymous reporting, and your deputies go beyond. When there was a call where a family was in San Bernardino, they worked really hard with us to figure out how we could cross boundaries and make sure that kiddo was safe. Just really appreciate them, Captain Walker. They are really good at their job, and they care as much as they give, and that's a whole lot. So thank you for that. I know it's a little long, but this is important, so I'll hurry it up. Joint facilities agreements. We are facing a huge problem. The problem is that we have so many kids that want to be in youth sports that between the district and the city, we probably don't have enough. But we are working collaboratively to make sure that all of our kids have a place to play soccer, play baseball, play football, all of those things. So I want to thank Megan and her team for that. Also, the joint use for the 4th of July, as well as the YPAC for our graduations. What a beautiful setting to graduate our adult school and our Green Valley High School. Want to mention the great crossing guards that we have, a tremendous partnership there. Not only are they getting kids to school safe, but they are also making sure that our people that live in the community, that are leaving the community to go to work, they can go to work without being stopped by 600 kids crossing the street at Parkview Middle School. The STARS program, lastly. The STARS program is amazing. And there are always ups and downs in every program, and there have been so many ups in this program that I can't tell you the benefit to our community. We started a Sunshine Club in the morning because of the City Stars Club in the afternoon, and I cannot tell you the number of parents that have said we're so grateful because we know we can, if we have to leave the community for work, we know our kids are going to be safe. And so my compliments to Megan and Sarah and Ruby and her team, and I thank you for that ongoing partnership because we definitely can't do it without you. We look forward to any new partnerships that we might be able to have. I have the honor of having meetings with your city manager, with Chris Mann, and we get to talk about upcoming things, and we're hoping to possibly do a library together and whatever that brings us. And then again, I want to go back to the ed code, the in loco parentis, in lieu of parents. So a safe environment to learn in and a safe community to live in. I think that we all have that same mission. So I want to ask for your support and your help. I know that I've spoken to some of you individually about kids in the community, my students during the day, parent during the day, and then the kids that are in our community. We have a family learning center, and in that family learning center, we have a whole host of programs that our parents can take advantage of, that your community parents can take advantage of. So I'm going to ask for your support when you have someone you come across that might have a need, because we'll present a class if the need is presented, but just some of them. How to parent in a social media world, how to support your child through addiction, how to support your child with grades and classwork, how to set boundaries for your child, anger management classes, behavioral and social skills. We have a whole host of programs. We teach computer literacy for parents who may not have that. Those are the things that I think as we work together, if you can share some of those with parents as you hear there are needs, we will take care of the training of the parents, and we will take care of our kids during the day. We love them, and we appreciate your partnership, and thank you for this time.
Superintendent, I see you got Board Member Miller here in the audience. Is there any other members of the board with you? Can you stand up as well, sir, real quick? So I'm going to try to touch on each of these. Number one, the first responder training that
our sheriff's department, our city emergency management are putting on in cooperation with our fire department wouldn't be possible without the facilities, which let's be real, after Uvalde and the tragedies we've seen, that is the priority. And the fact that the school district is standing side by side with the city, with the sheriff's department, the fire department, to send a very clear message that we're not going to stand idly by while things happen and be caught by surprise should something horrible happen in our community is a testament to your leadership. And I want to thank both of you and the entire board for allowing that partnership to take place. Our children are absolutely precious and they need all the defending that we can possibly give them. So thank you for that. The training that you spoke of with the Law and Public Safety Academy, you are building foundations for the future of our community's first responders that is truly that investment into our safety. So thank you for continuing that program in your schools. You're absolutely right. The every 15 minutes was something that I'll never forget, and it's been almost 20 years because as a 18-year-old kid, I was brought to tears because it's something, you know, when you're 18 years old, you think that you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And to see your classmates in the most realistic car accident on the football field and hearing eulogies being offered by parents who, I don't know if I'd be able to give a eulogy for my daughter, even a fake one. It is heart-wrenching. That is the kind of stuff you're right, it sends those lasting messages to remind how precious life is, even as a youngster. So thank you for that. Truly, you gave a lot of accolades to the city staff, but I think your leadership needs to be recognized as well. So can we give a round of applause to our superintendent and our school board member, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and the City Council. I so appreciate it. I live in this community. I love this community. Want to continue to do anything I can to make it better. And then the last plug is, don't forget, we have summer feeding in the park. So we'll be feeding hundreds of kids. So bring your kids out.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am. All right. That was a good special presentation. And it distracted me from the fact that we don't have a Yaps Dog of the Month, which is a very highlight for us. All right, moving on to public comment. Sydney Porter, if you could come up and just give us your name and address. And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes for public comment. If you wish to be heard, there are public speaker comment slips located in the back of the room. You can go and fill them out and hand them to our city clerk, and she will get them to me.
Hello, this will be very quick. My name is Sydney Porter, 12813 7th Street, your city. Just wanted to address the fact that if you could possibly get a bicycle rack near the city hall, the nearest bicycle rack you have to lock up a bicycle is like about almost a quarter mile away from you, over in the bus depot area. And if you could just simply put in a small bicycle rack for people who do ride bicycles in. I mean, you've got all the bike lanes and everything, but you don't have a bicycle rack. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where is Fermin here? Fermin, you get that? Awesome. Thank you. All right. Moving on to consent agenda. The consent agenda for tonight's council meeting consists of items 1 through 10. Is there a member of the council that wishes to have a item removed from consent for further discussion?
I'd like to pull number 7 for discussion.
Number 7? Any others? All right. With the exception of number 7, is there a motion to approve items 1 through 6 and 8 through 10?
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion made by Councilman Duncan,
I'll second.
seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Venable. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0 with 1 absent. Item number 7, this is going to be the special event permit application Pumpkin Patch. And this will be by, it says Megan Wolf.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. The applicant, known as Pumpkin Patch, or Pumpkin Factory LLC, has submitted a special event permit application to conduct festival-style concerts on their property. The event dates are June 22nd, July 27th, and August 31st. The concerts will take place starting at 2 p.m., or the doors will open at 2, and going as late as 2 a.m. The activities, the applicant has listed is they will have food and beverage vendors, live entertainment, and alcohol. The applicant is anticipating an attendance of over 2,000 and is requesting to sell alcohol on property. Therefore, they need city council approval since they don't have a permanent ABC license on that property. Upon city council direction tonight, staff will route the SEP for department review and approval. That concludes my report, and I can answer any questions you may have.
So just clarifying, should this body approve the permit, then it will be routed to all the appropriate department heads, who the sheriff's department, the fire department, to ensure that all safety measures are taken to have a safe event?
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Okay, questions of staff?
I have some. So just for clarity here, I had a conversation with Tony Hicks a few days ago, and he had some questions about why they would need a special event permit since they have a CUP. So could you explain why they would need a special events permit? Because I probably don't have all those answers, and that's why I had it pulled, because you have probably more info than I do.
Absolutely, thank you for the question. So in this case, the applicant needs a special event permit because they don't hold an ABC license, an alcohol beverage control license, and they wish to sell alcohol on property. Therefore, Ordinance 394 states that City Council can approve a one-day license or permit to sell alcohol on property.
So the only reason they need the special use permit is because there's going to be alcohol.
That is number one. The number two reason that they need a special event permit is because they are saying that they're going to have an anticipated attendance of over 2,000 people, and their CUP is not for the use of concerts. It's for the operation of a pumpkin patch for me. Is that correct?
Okay. So in the CUP, does it specify any kind of number cap of how many people can be there, or does it specifically state they would have to have a special use permit in order to have a concert?
I'm going to let Fermin take the mic on that.
Okay.
Hi, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Yes, the CUP for the property is specifically for seasonal use, which is from September through December. It does reference a number as far as the number of attendees, but as you're aware, the pumpkin patch during their season, they do operate 4, maybe 5 days a week, and depending on the day of the week, the number of participants vary. So there isn't a cap on there. There is a number referenced, but again, I just want to clarify that the CUP for the property it's seasonal from September to December for the uses that are specified on the CUP, and I believe the concerts is not one of those uses.
And not in season.
So when you say season, does the CUP specifically state the months or dates that our season is in effect? The reason I asked that question is because the copy of the CUP that I looked at, and I just perused it quickly, I did not see that it said from September to December or whatever the time frame is. Okay, I'm just using broad time frames. I didn't see any dates. So one could argue that they have seasonal events there throughout the year, whether it's fall, winter, spring, excuse me, without it being specified in the CUP. Is that specific?
It does reference the word seasonal for the pumpkin patch, which is in the fall, and also for the Christmas tree farm, which is in December. So our interpretation is that it's from September through December. And I would have to look at it again to see if it includes those specific dates, but our interpretation is that is from September through December.
Because otherwise it would say year-round. Because technically, we're in a season right now,
That's correct.
not seasonal. Thank you.
I think I probably had more questions, but I can't remember what they are right now.
in the future, could we be more specific with the CUP if it doesn't have the dates in there?
Yes.
Whether, I mean, they have one, but I mean, for future applicants for CUPs, if something is not spelled out in the CUP, they're gonna assume that they probably have that freedom. And when you talk about intent, I don't know, unless it's specifically spelled out in the CUP, they're not gonna know that they're prohibited from doing it.
Yes, in the future, we can reference the specific dates, and it is very common to have an applicant come back to the Planning Commission with an amendment to the CUP to either change the scope of their use or to further clarify those types of things. But yes, in the future, we will certainly do that.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I see Mr. Hicks out in the audience. I don't know if he has any further questions or if he has any concerns about this that he'd like to present. Do we want to give him the opportunity to speak?
Mr. Hicks, if you'd like to fill out a comment card, I can call your comment afterwards. Mayor Pro Tem Venable, did you have questions? You had one that you want to pull as well?
Yeah, so is this something that we can expedite right away so they can meet these dates?
Yes, actually, we sent it to I sent it to the departments for review and approval simultaneously. We're just waiting upon council's direction tonight, and then the information will be given to the applicant tomorrow.
Yeah, because, you know, they bring a lot of revenue into the city where the hotels and all the food and everything like that they go afterwards and stuff. So that's one thing I'd like to see is if we can expedite this.
When an application comes in, do we timestamp those when they come into the desk?
We do not timestamp special event permits, but that's something that we can add to the process. We have email correspondence that we normally do, and we have correspondence that has, like, the permit is processed immediately when we receive it. And it has a date and time on the permit, but it's not like when the applicant hands it, it's when the staff inputs it into the computer.
Gotcha. Is there a deadline as well as to if I'm gonna have an event and I want it August 1st, is there a deadline when it needs to be in so that there's a proper time for staff to process it? Like a minimum timeframe, like 30, 60 days to turn it around?
Yes, the procedure for a special event permit application states that a complete permit application must be filled out as early as 1 year before the event, but must be received no later than 3 months before the actual event date. Any organized activity involving the use or having impact on public property facilities, public parks, sidewalks, street areas, or having alcohol without a permit will require a special event permit. If the applicant is requesting the waiver of fees, they must submit it no later than 6 months in advance. I would like to note that the city manager has asked that I review the dates and make them a little bit like less time, so not 3 months that you can turn it in. I think it's like 30 days or something like that. So staff is reviewing the policy and will come before council with some amendments to this permit process.
One last question for me and then I'll be quiet. In the event that someone waits to the last minute, so let's say we've decided it's 30 days, and I come in 28 days before the event, and now I want that processed. Do we assess any kind of fee to expedite that now because they have missed that cutoff time, and so we're going to still receive it, I presume, but we may not get it back in time? Are we going to fine them or give them a fee because they've not met that cutoff date or time frame?
At this time, we do not have a fee for late submittals. So the answer to that's no. I did want to note that I believe what the city manager was wanting from me is to be more helpful to those that are wanting to get a permit and not have such long deadlines, making it easier for an applicant to work with the city.
So should you make those policy changes, that will come back to council as well for approval, or would that be an in-house policy change that staff makes alone?
Are those deadlines part of a resolution, or can we do this administratively?
They're not part of a resolution.
So then we can do it administratively, yeah. I did want to add, as Megan mentioned, it's very often, very common that we receive applications, after the technical deadline. We always try to accommodate whenever we can. I think it's important to note that there are different steps in the process. So, for example, an application for a special event permit may come in, and it may get approved, but conditionally upon the applicant then going and getting permits that they need. So for example, if they're going to be serving food under a tent, well, then that tent, building and safety may have to look at that tent. County Health Department may have to go out and make sure food's being, prepared the right way, or whatever, the fire marshal may have to go out and do an inspection. So the permits are often, special event permits are often approved contingent on those other permits being acquired. And so sometimes that process takes a little bit of extra time, and we don't always have full control over it because it has to go out to outside agencies such as the County Health Department sometimes. So, we want to leave enough time that all the agencies have time to do what they need to do, but we want to be accommodating too to try to get those processed quickly for the applicants.
Thank you.
Mr. Hicks?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilman. First off, I want to thank Megan for all of her help and the city staff, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight on this. Last year, about late June, I approached the city for a sign-off for a ABC license for a concert we had planned in August of last year. And at that point, I was told we needed a special use permit for that concert. And I do have copies of the CUP. If you would like to see them, I have a copy available for everyone. Can I make those available, Mayor?
For the council?
Yes.
Sure, you can hand them to our city clerk after you're done speaking if you like.
Pardon me?
You can hand them to the city clerk after you're done speaking if you'd like to make your point first.
So in the CUP, I'll just read from it real quickly. And one, I would ask for additional time since we are the applicant to respond as the applicant and not as just a resident. Conditional use permit. So in the conditional use permit is to provide for the continuous authorization of holding of project annual held events in lieu of currently holding special event permits. The CUP for the project, AKA Pumpkin Factory LLC, includes construction of permit vendor booths, displays, and will replace existing temporary structures. And it goes on from there. But there are no dates that would hold it to November through December timeframe, and it specifically says special event permits to replace special event permits. So going back to last year, I brought this CUP the CUP to the attention of the city staff, and they made a determination that we still needed a special use permit, that the intent of the CUP was to provide only for those months, even though it's not clearly spelled out. So we did go ahead and process a application, had our concert, and then in January initially of this year, I had a meeting with staff, and I said we intended to do a series of concert events for a summer concert series, and at that time, we had planned 6 events. And are you gonna hold us to a special use permit? Do we need one special use permit if you plan to do that, or do we need one individual for each event? And after a considerable delay, let's see, I'm looking for the actual date. Can I continue?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more time, sir, since you're the applicant.
So the actual date, February 29th, I again reached out to city regards to the application, what we needed to do. Again, on March 11th, I reached out. He said he would reach out, Ryan said he would reach out to Megan. March 12th, we would need to I was notified we'd need to have an SUP. Dropped off the application in March. We ended up canceling our first planned concert of April 22nd, and then we also canceled the May date. The first response that I had to the application was at a meeting we had with city staff last month, mid-month, and it wasn't directly related to this application for a special use permit. And at that time, after that meeting, I met with Megan, and she said she had a couple of questions, wanted to know specifically what acts that we had planned. I provided her that, and so this was the first available meeting. Now, our first concert is scheduled in less than 2 weeks. And with the existing CUP, all of the fire, building and safety, planning, and all of those items have already been addressed in the CUP. I would expect for a stage that we're going to set up, there would be an additional inspection by building department for just that stage and the temporary generator and wiring that we'll need for that, and also fire department. So last year we provided a independent third party for the event then because fire didn't want to go through everything and building didn't want to, or building department didn't want to inspect it because of the late time. We had met with them out there. So we ended up providing a letter from a licensed electrical engineer that we met the requirements. I also sent pictures to Ryan of the fire extinguishers that were in place. And so we've tried to meet everything, but it seems like we're going to have to come back for an SUP every time that we're contemplating a concert or anything. So in that, that takes staff time, takes our time, and then in this case, we've been delayed for quite a while, and we're hoping to streamline that process. The concerts are no different than the normal operation of the pumpkin patch. In fact, normally we do have acts going on and live music playing at the concert, at the pumpkin patch during season. It's a lot lower threshold than any normal day of the pumpkin patch during season. So, there's not parking issues or those type of things to deal with. And all the parking can be contained on site. So what I'm asking is if City Council can, take a look at the conditions of approval that we have currently and make a determination on whether if there is intent contained in this or if it's specific, and how we deal with it from here forward, so that it's very hard to plan for any type of entertainment without a long period of time to book that, as the city well knows, with their event venue. So now we're, up against a 2-week deadline, and we're still just getting to City Council, and we still don't have any comments that we're expecting from the same staff that approved and the same departments that approved the original CUP. So that's what we're looking for. It's just a determination that the CUP covers not only the pumpkin patch and the Christmas tree farm, but also, as it states, annual held events in lieu of currently holding special event permits. And I think it's pretty clear when you read it that that's what it is. Just like the city, the number of events that are done in the city, you have festivals throughout the year or events, which include a fall festival, art and entertainment festival, and I don't even know how many we have now in the city. And it's hard to book those acts 2 months in advance or 2 weeks in advance. And again, I had acts booked for the original date earlier this year, and I had to cancel those acts and pay the fee for canceling because I had not heard back from the city. So thank you for your consideration. I'll give the copies of the CUP to the clerk, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Nair, I'd like to ask our staff, for me and/or Ben to address some of the issues that were brought up by Ms. Trex, because I think there are some discrepancies with.
Well, before, and I'll certainly hear him, but my thought is, I think the word seasonal is an intentional language in the CUP. The pumpkin patch and the Christmas tree farm are enjoyed by the masses, far and wide. People come to enjoy it. However, we, the elected body, and you, the staff of the city, are beholden to the citizens of the city to ensure that their will be done as well. Should we find ourselves entertaining a Fiesta Village or an amusement park by allowing this to just be a year-long process, I think that the appropriate dialogue needs to be had with the people of the community to ensure that it's something we want in the city. I think the seasonal CUP for a pumpkin patch and a Christmas tree farm is something that has been a tradition of the city, and the citizens of the city, by and large, I think, enjoy having the festivities here. I think it remains to be seen, because we haven't talked about it in a public manner, whether or not we want to have a full-time year-round amusement park, so if you will, or a venue that is hosting year-round activities. I think people enjoy the pumpkin patch and Christmas tree farm enough to begrudgingly endure the traffic that it creates in the city. I know the city benefits financially because of the revenue generated, but I think before we dismiss the fact that I think seasonal is intended. Otherwise, it would say year round. Seasonal is intended because pumpkin patch and Christmas trees happen generally once a year. So, gentlemen,
So I just want to address, I think, that the discussion about seasonal. So as part of the approved project plans that run part and parcel to the condition of approval, specify special event periods: October event, September 15th through October 31st, hours of operation, office 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, event 9 a.m. through 10 p.m., 7 days a week. And then the December event, November 15th to December 30th, hours of operation, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, event 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. So these are a part of the project plans that were part of the submittal from the Pumpkin Factory for their use, and they are what is referenced in the condition of approval as the scope of the project.
all right. So returning to the matter at hand, item number 7, the special events permit application for the Pumpkin Factory LLC's June 22nd, July 27th, and August 31st special events from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. Is there a motion made by this council?
I move approval.
Motion by Councilman Duncan. Any second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item number 11. Superintendent, I forgot to mention during your special presentation, and I just remembered, you're doing amazing work with our kids, because I'm glad you're here for this. Every time Sarah brings forth an applicant for our youth advisory committee, we are left dumbfounded, knowing full well that one of these young men and women are going to put us out of a job on this dais because they're smarter than we are. It's a testament to your ability to educate the minds of our youngsters in this community. I've said it in jest several times. I didn't even know GPAs went that high. So outstanding work again to you folks for doing amazing things. Sarah, let's hear about our next youth advisory appointee.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and City Council. So it is my esteemed pleasure to consistently serve as a staff liaison for the Youth Advisory Committee. And I am here this evening to recommend the appointment of Miss Melanie Lamelli. I've been working on that for a week, I'm sorry. With the recommended appointment this evening, the committee will have filled all vacant positions for this term. So we're extremely excited and grateful that she is able and willing and wanting to serve the Yucaipa teens. So she is an incoming junior at Yucaipa High School with a solid 3.8 GPA. She would like to make we'll do that. She would like to make a positive impact on the lives of Yucaipa teens through community volunteerism, assisting events to provide socialization opportunities, and to be a good role model for teens. The committee and I have no doubt that she is not only going to make the city proud, but her family is here this evening, and she's going to continue to make them proud as well. So Before I offer her the opportunity to speak to you this evening, I'd like to point out that we did not color coordinate on purpose. We did not call each other and say, this is what we're wearing, but I would like to say that she's on the same wavelength as the Youth Advisory Committee, and that is why we're matching this evening. So with that, I turn the microphone over to Melanie to say a few words, after which we'll conclude my presentation, but I am available for any questions.
Hello, my name is Melanie. First off, I would like to say it is a pleasure to be here. I see the Yucaipa Youth Advisory Committee as an opportunity not only to benefit my future, but to benefit the community's future. And I would love to be a part of it. I'm an almost straight A student with honors classes. I have taken honors classes since I was in 6th grade, which has taught me to work under pressure and to handle the workload. I am also a person with great attendance. I have only missed 2 days of school since kindergarten, which both days I was extremely sick and was not physically capable of going to school for a whole day. I have always been very, very family oriented, and I am a very proud person of who I am and my family background. I am bilingual and come from a Mexican family. I have one sister, she's younger, which makes me the oldest. Being the oldest teaches you about responsibility and to stay on the right track to keep your siblings down that path. I am determined, responsible, and ready for any and all challenges that come my way, and I personally think these traits will be an excellent addition to the group. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Mom and Dad, outstanding work. And young lady in the back, watch your sister closely. She's a good example for you. Questions of staff?
Is this the first time that we've had all the positions filled in a long time, right?
No, actually, for the last 3 years, we have consistently had a full committee.
Outstanding. Good.
How come you didn't tell me who your mom was? I've known your mom for quite a while. So, fantastic family. Glad to have you on board.
I'll enthusiastically move approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing none, there is none. Ma'am, congratulations. Welcome to the Youth Advisory Committee. Can we get a picture with you, please? All right, thank you, Sarah. Moving on to item number 12. This is our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Jennifer Crawford, and this is the review and consideration of fiscal year 24-25 community activity grant applications.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. In April, City Council reviewed the CAG guidelines for the upcoming fiscal year, along with allocating $20,000 for financial requests and $40,000 for in-kind requests. The grant opportunity was noticed to our community partners, and we received 17 grant applications back. The CAG committee did meet on Monday, June 3rd, to review and recommend the financial and/or in-kind support for council consideration this evening. In the table on page 157 of the staff report and on the screen, it highlights the applicants' organizations, the descriptions of what they would like to do with the grant funding, and if they're requesting financial and/or in-kind. And I can never get this thing to work, right here. And then this row is what the CAG Ad Hoc Committee is recommending for your review and approval this evening. So because we have some great people here this evening wanting to tell you about what they would like to do with the funding and support, I will hand it back over to you, Mayor, for public comment.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we have quite a few public comment, so we'll get right into it. Sharon Ring? Say again? She's passing. Passing, all right. Kim Burden? Did I mispronounce your first name, sir?
No, that's me.
Okay. Followed by Virginia Cosby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm here representing the Al-Anon family groups. We've had a long-standing, 3-year relationship with the council with in-kind grants. Unfortunately, this particular year, the policies have changed, and the 2-hour minimum kind of knocks us out of the room. We would request that we either receive a special consideration to go back to 1 hour, or that we be given the in-kind grant of, I forget what it is. I'm not the point person, I'm filling in. The people who actually have dealt with the city directly were unable to make it tonight, so I am doing the best I can to make you aware. We believe that we provide a necessary service to the community in helping people who are affected by alcoholics and drug addicts and the problems that families have with that. But as I've said, we don't generate funds. And for the most part, the contributions that we make are from our own pockets. We try to be self-supporting through our own contributions. We try to provide a meeting place and literature for people who are affected by alcoholics and drug addicts. We're relatively successful, but there are only 2 Al-Anon meetings in Yucaipa, and we would really like for that one to stay. That's actually a very popular meeting, and it's well attended, 18 to 20 people a week, and we would love to be able to stay there. So if you have any questions, I can answer them, but essentially everything that needs to be said is in the application. We think we do good work, and we think we do necessary work. Anyone who has been affected by the disease of alcoholism or drug addiction understands the depression and the despair that people have to go through when they have to deal with that. I myself have a son and a daughter who were affected, which is why I'm in that room, and it's helped quite a bit. So I would appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Assistant City Manager, can you provide some clarity on that 1 hour, 2 hour? Because it looks like.
I'm not 100% sure, because what you see on the screen is exactly what they requested in the grant. And that's what's being recommended by the ad hoc. So the application is, they're seeking an hour and a half, and it looks like that's what they received confirmation from. So I can work with Megan and or Sarah, but at least right now it covers the amount we received from the community center.
Okay. Okay. Looks like that's what I read too, was the amount requested was the amount recommended by the committee. So I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. All right. Thank you. All right. Virginia Cosby, followed by Nick Moretta.
Good evening. I'm Virginia Cosby. I am a past president and current trustee of the Yucaipa Women's Club. The clubhouse was built 102 years ago. Anything 102 years old, you know, is going to need some upkeep. We are very, very thankful that the city has helped us over the years as much as they can, and we are hoping that you will again, because we need to keep this building going. It's a meeting house, it's a recreation place, it's a social place, and there's a lot of people in the city that count on us, and we want to keep the building in good repair. And we have, with the grant last year, we have started landscaping. We planted 5 citrus trees on one side of the building, and we have a little free library outside. We're doing a lot of things for the community when we can, but our first, of course, we have to keep the doors open at the building. But I do want to thank you for all the help and over the years, and it's wonderful working with the city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Nick Moretta, followed by Donna Solomon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Nick Moretta. I represent the Yucaipa Elks Lodge, and I'm here. First of all, I'd like to thank for your prior support with our annual Hoop Shoot program, and I'm here to ask for funding again this year. So the annual Hoop Shoot is for boys and girls 8 to 13 years old, and it's broke up into three categories. There's 8 to 9 years old, and then 10 to 11, 12 to 13. The boys compete against the boys, the girls compete against the girls, and we have 12 lodges in our district. The winners from each of these age groups advance to our district to compete against all the other lodge winners, and then they move on to state, and then from state they move on to nationals. And the winners from the nationals actually get their name in the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts. It's a pretty big deal, and we believe that determined, hardworking kids become determined, hardworking adults. And we believe it's an important deal. We've been doing it since 1972 across the nation, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. So I appreciate your help. Appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Donna Solomon, followed by Deborah Lau.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing me to come again this year and ask for help for GardenWorks. GardenWorks for Kids is continuing to grow. We came out of COVID strong. This last year, we saw over 2,500 kids a month that come to our facility from preschool all the way up to 5th grade. We've watched tremendous outreach from parents and children. We started a preschool program just for 18 months to 5 years old. We're preparing our children for school, which the superintendent should be proud of. Studies show that if you incorporate gardening with school-aged children and younger, that they live 10 years longer as adults. They get out in nature. They learn all about planting. They do better in school because they're less stressed. Parents and teachers, that gives them an opening to address problems that they have, not only in the younger years, but teenage years. If they garden together, they have time in nature. We're seeing such a big interest in special needs and autism children that come to our facility, some in wheelchairs that can't even use their hands or their, and are on breathing machines, come to the garden and they enjoy the garden and experience the exact same program as the healthy kids. So we're watching a big influence of ages and special needs and people that appreciate us. We were in 9 school districts last year. We're in 14 school districts. They come from Corona, they come from Orange County, they come from Riverside County. So it's a new concept in teaching kids about gardening, but it not only reaches them at that level, health-wise, and addressing child obesity and exercise, but also we've been having a lot of middle school kids and high school kids come to learn the story about GardenWorks for Kids and how you can have an idea and a dream and put that in practice, not in your own life. 2 weeks ago, I had 8th graders from Chapman Heights, I think it was Chapman Heights, come, and we sat down, and there was 40 kids that came, sat down on the rug, and some of them were actually preschoolers and kindergartners that came. So I got to watch the end product, and we talked about inspiration and passion and what you have to give back to society. And a lot of things clicked because I got 32 letters back from the kids and the teachers saying it really inspired them and changed their way of thinking. So I just want to say thank you and for consideration with this grant.
Thank you. Deborah Lau, followed by Paul Keelhold.
Hi, I'm Debbie Lowe, Director of Neighbors Clothing Closet. Thank you for hearing us out tonight. Our boutique is on Oakview High School's campus. We serve middle and high school students in need with clothing, hygiene, socks, undergarments, shoes and socks, all of it. This year, we've served just over 250 students. We're also available to the other schools in this town by appointment. So Yucaipa High School, Parkview, Mesa View can come and get their needs met by appointment. Getting up and committing to a day of school when your life is in chaos is very hard. Clean clothes, hygiene products are hard for these students to come by. Just knowing they can come to school and get the items they need sometimes is a motivation to get them into school. Can you imagine not having basic shower supplies? The clothing that is generously donated by this community is taken to the high school. A very special group of students at the high school wash them, sort them, iron them, put them on hangers, and bring them back to us. What we do not accept is used undergarments and socks and hygiene products. That's our biggest need. I'm very nervous. Neighbor's Closet is free to every student. We have 6 racks in our boutique, and they can have 2 things from each rack, along with a pair of shoes, a jacket, and our motto is, the answer is always yes. Go ahead and ask.
You're doing fine.
Every now and then we get special requests. We had a student come in with a size 14 wide foot. We managed to get 2 pairs of shoes donated. We also had a young man come in this past school year who needed a suit for the prom. We got that donated. But what we really need is a constant support for hygiene, undergarments, and socks. Thank you for your consideration. If you have any questions, I can answer them.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions?
What foundation are you from?
I'm sorry?
What foundation?
It's called Our Neighbor's Clothing Closet. It's listed under the Well Outreach Center.
Oh, okay. I got it now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Keelhold, followed by Mrs. Rachel Gustafson and Mr. George Sardison. Sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Council. I'm here in representing Yucaipa Calamasa Family Assistance. For those of you who do not know, it is a 501c3 foundation. We run...
You're okay.
We run a thrift store and a food pantry on Avenue B. And we've been there 75 years. We have approximately 1,400 visits each month. There may not be individuals, they're repeat visits. The thrift store is run on donations. The money goes to pay utilities, things like that. The food is donated. We have 1 part-time employee and 18 volunteers. And I'll answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Your questions? Thank you for your comments, sir. Mrs. Rachel Gustafson, followed by Mr. George Sardison. Or I'm sorry, with Mr. George Sardison. Sorry.
Good evening. My name is Rachel Gustafson, longtime local resident, Newsmere editor, and president of Yucaipa Calamasa Veterans Committee. Today, I'm here representing YCVC, along with George, and we have other members of our committee in the audience. Our organization has been putting on Memorial Day and Veterans Day programs in the community for decades. Our mission is to honor our living veterans and our fallen soldiers. We do this through our 2 poignant programs each year. Our programs often include the military medley, live patriotic music, echoing taps, vintage World War II flyovers, and the powerful roll call of the dead, among others. And like everything else, it's expensive to put these programs on. Recently, we were notified that we must be a nonprofit organization or have a nonprofit organization back us to continue receiving funding from the city. So our committee, along with generous donors, paid the fees and filed to become our own nonprofit organization. On March 1st of this year, YCVC was notified by the IRS of our new tax-exempt status. Woohoo! So the city of Yucaipa has historically donated $500 to us each year, and the in-kind use of Yucaipa Community Outdoor Amphitheater. We are requesting the same and look forward to many more successful programs to honor our cherished veterans. Thank you.
Thank you.
George Sardison, 12451 Custer Street. Like Rachel mentioned, I am a member of the committee, longtime part of the planning group. And I would like to thank the ad hoc review committee, council members Thorpe and Beaver, for your due diligence in reviewing all of these applications, not just ours. It's a great thing that our community has available to all these organizations, not just ours. We also thank you for recommending the in-kind donation to our event that's held every November. And just as a side note, while I was just a member of the committee for many years, it was a couple years ago that our local longtime council member, Dick Riddell, had to step away from his duties as our master of ceremonies. And the meeting, our planning meeting, when he announced that he was unable to do that, it was brought up. I said, well, now we got to find a master of ceremonies. And Mr. Riddell unceremoniously said, well, George, you're going to have to do it. So as a proud Navy veteran, as he is, I'm reminded of his service to our country in World War II, especially last week when they showed the last remaining World War II veterans of World War II during the Normandy celebration for over in France. So again, I just want to thank the city for its continued support for this event in prior years and going forward. And with our new status as a nonprofit, we're going to be able to expand out and further into the community and expand our programs. So I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir. And congratulations on your status.
Mr. Sardis, I just see the in-kind, 720 with in-kind. I don't see any recommended financial. You said you got $500 last year?
Yeah, Jennifer, you want to address that? That's done under a different program, I believe.
Yeah, we have 3 agencies that not only get support from the community activity grant, but they're also included in the non-department, not-for-profit budget. It's an automatic roll that you guys reviewed back in April that you approved. Right. So in that list, Veterans Day gets their $500. FSA Redlands Yucaipa Outreach gets $5,000 in support. I'm sorry, did I say Veterans Day gets $500. Redlands Yucaipa Outreach gets $5,000, and the Rotary Christmas Parade gets $1,000.
Right. Okay.
They're in the budget proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Zoli Martinez, followed by Mr. Tim Hansen.
Good evening, council members. My name is Zuli Martinez, president of Yucaipa Valley Art Association. I am pleased this year to represent once again Yucaipa Valley, which is of course a nonprofit group in the community that supports art and photography. We actually work with the high school as well as inviting college students and adult artists in our community to participate in our organization. This year, of course, we were part of the Yucaipa Music and Arts Festival, and it just would not have been possible without Megan Wolf and her team that invited us and included us, and it was a successful event. So we're happy to be part of that, that event, and hopefully again next year. Anyways, our organization also supports high school students. In fact, I just attended one of the ceremonies last week. We award 2 art scholarships to high school students as well. Let's see. We hold all of our meetings at the Shear Center, and of course would like to thank the City of Yucaipa for supporting our monthly meetings and our weekly meetings. And this year we are submitting 2 grants that actually reflect a reduction of $1,271 from last year's submission. And also this year we are submitting a grant of $2,892. I think there's one listed for $3,543, which is higher than our actual submission because we actually have to pay the labor cost for an evening event. And the other one is for our weekly painting sessions for $4,212. So again, we hope that this year you will support us and our art activities and grant us these in-kind grants 100%. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Tim Hansen, followed by Mrs. Patty Ingram.
Council members, Mr. Mayor, thank you for hearing me. My name is Tim Hansen with Yucaipa BMX. We are the BMX facility here in town. Great facility. Again, horrible public speaker. But we are located between Yucaipa High School and YAPS. We are open 2 days a week, Tuesday night for practice from 5:30 to 7:30. We also practice and race on Sundays. We are one of the other sports in town, and there are many kids. So I don't know, I get emotional. We are one of the sports in town that there are many kids that are not the traditional stick and ball kids, but they still need an outlet. And we're one of those things that can provide that. Our request today is to provide, replace our current bikes. So what we do is if kids come in, they don't have anything, they just have the will and the want to be able to ride, we provide them with new helmets, which we just bought, all the necessary gear, and we give them a bike at no charge. So if they come out, the most we'll charge them is the practice for the race fee. Practice is $5 on Tuesdays. If they want to practice and race on Sundays, it's $10. And it's just a great thing. And there are so many great programs here in Yucaipa. So we're one of them. We're kind of what we consider one of the hidden gems. And sorry, I had notes because I knew I'd screw this up. And I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
And if you had any questions, I'm always here. I've tried to get Mr. Duncan out there once, and if any of you guys would like to try it, you're more than welcome.
Thank you. You got to wait behind pickleball. They've been trying to get us out to play pickleball too. So, and that's a great segue, Ms. Patty Ingram.
Yes, we'd love to see you out there. So last year, we were fortunate enough to receive a grant from the city, which we used in our Pickleball in the Schools program. That was a joint partnership between the school district and the city, where we introduced pickleball to kids in grades 5 through 8 and the athletic group at the high school. In that, we served over 3,000 students. We gave them individual instruction with over 1,000 hours of volunteer time put into that program. And believe it or not, our volunteers and our leader of that program wants to do it again. And so this year, we requested some additional money to buy more supplies for the schools. As we found, we were able to give last year 1 net, 8 balls, and 8 paddles to every school. We want to try to increase those numbers because this school doesn't always have the money to buy those kinds of supplies. We found through our program that the principals told us that the discipline and morale at their schools increased because now these kids were wanting to play pickleball during recess, not just during PE. We got numerous calls after we started our program from parents wanting to know if we were going to be having kids clinics and things like that for our kids. And in fact, as part of this program, we did help sponsor 2 school tournaments and 1 youth tournament. And we had kids come from as far away as Ontario, Claremont, Rancho Cucamonga for our tournament. Councilmember Thorpe attended that tournament briefly and saw what a great crowd we had. And we just want to continue those kinds of programs. Contrary to what was on social media recently, pickleball isn't for old people only. We do serve the entire range of, we have 7 and 8-year-olds out there to 80-year-olds. And we want to continue that because it is so good for your health, for your family. It's a family activity. It's one of the few things you can do that you can do as a whole family. We want to emphasize that it is as part of the youth program. As I've told you before, we had a YHS grad. He's 18 years old. He was a Dunlap Elementary student. This past weekend, he just received the gold medal in men's doubles for the Professional Pickleball Tour. That's how Yucaipa is on the map with pickleball now. We appreciate your support. We do know that it's something that's good for the community. We hope to keep increasing the ability to have pickleball in the schools, and we appreciate your help again this year. Thank you.
So I went to a Peace Officer Memorial event down in Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles hosted it, and I met a battalion chief from LA City Fire who learned that I resided in Yucaipa. And he said, "Oh, yeah, that's right, it's the pickleball community. We're up there for a tournament."
Good.
I said, I thought it was the apples and stuff, but that's cool. Pickleball too.
We're here. We're trying to do it. Thank you.
So yeah, all right. Thank you, ma'am. Our last speaker is representing Smiles for Seniors, Catherine.
Hello, Council, Mayor. Thank you for having me here. First, I just want to say I'm in tears over here with, I just want to say we have the best community, I think, and these nonprofits, the passion that they have, it's just so commendable. Thank you, all of you. So yeah, we're Smiles for Seniors, and you probably have heard of us. We thank you for the past donations and grants that we were awarded. But just in case you don't know who we are, we're not dentists. What we do is we help low-income seniors when they can't afford to buy food, medication, rent. We help with utility bills and basic necessities needed to survive. And we've been here proudly in the city of Yucaipa for 17 years. That's about it.
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am.
Thank you.
We need more money, man. This is not easy, I'll tell you. Reviewed all the applications. I concur with Councilman Thorpe's assessment. So is there a motion on the table regarding item number 12 at the moment?
I'll move as recommended.
I'll second as recommended. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Congratulations to all the recipients, and thank you for your effort in the community. It doesn't go unnoticed, so thank you. Moving on to our final agenda item for this evening. I'm missing it, right? I've done that before. All right, final agenda item for the evening. This is by our Finance Director, Mr. Phil White. Fiscal year 24-25, annual budget, capital improvement program, and other related actions.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. I agree with you, Mayor, we need more money. And I agree with the last speaker that Yucaipa is an incredible community, and I'm after those types of items, it's it's a prideful moment to be a resident of Yucaipa. Moving on to less exciting topics and needing more money. Staff is pleased to recommend the adoption of the city's fiscal year 25 spending plan. This is a one-year, as we've discussed, it's a one-year stopgap, and this really spotlights the serious financial challenges in front of Yucaipa. This budget will get us through the next fiscal year, but the continued trend of deficit spending is not sustainable. Determining the best solution will be a community effort and will take time. It will also be the topic of a future discussion. In fact, next week, June 17th, there'll be a town hall meeting at the White Pack at 6 p.m. Be sure to mark your calendar for the long-term financial fix. While the long-term solution will be the topic discussed another night, tonight we will review what we've been talking about, the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. Staff's objectives in developing this budget were based on the City Council's adopted goals, which were published in January of 24. Each one of these goals has been incorporated into the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. As an example, number one, establish and implement a plan to correct the structural budget deficit. We're talking about that tonight. That's going to take time. It's going to be an ongoing community effort. And it kind of goes hand in hand with number four, expand communications, public engagement, and transparency efforts. With this budget, we are implementing the new digital budget book that will be available with a couple of clicks from our website. And it also gives us an opportunity to roll into a long-term financial fix like the upcoming financial fix town hall meeting next Monday night. Going back to number two, enhancing public safety and reducing homelessness. We've had significant gains, especially on the reducing homelessness front over the last 6 months. With the upcoming fiscal year 25 budget, we did not make any cuts. We held those service levels intact. We were able to accomplish that. Number three, improving road maintenance. What we did there was prioritize the use of restricted funds. We get money specifically for road maintenance. We're digging into that pot of money and expediting as much service as we can do to get the roads back up to where the community would like them, based on restricted funding. Number five deals with cost recovery. Both development services and community services are making an effort, while they're holding service levels intact, they're making an effort to recover as much costs as possible. And then number six, focusing on the completion of CIP. Our development services team prioritized everything that's in the queue, saw what we needed to go forward with now, saw what we could hold off on, and then really limited any new asks to comply with goal number 6. 7 through 11 have also been implemented as we go through these. All 11 of them are incorporated into the fiscal year 25 proposed budget that's in your packet tonight. Our strategy for developing this budget was simple. Basically, we wanted to, the departments were tasked with operating effectively without expanding service levels. So we weren't trying to cut services, we were trying to hold everything intact, but we're not trying to ramp up on the service levels either. There were specific guidelines that were provided to each department as well, and those are summarized here. As an example, public safety, again, service levels were held intact, no cuts in public safety service levels. We did ask them, however, to defer capital investment when it was possible. So their original requests came through where there was capital involved. We were working with each department, including public safety, to see what we really needed at this point or what we could hold off to next year. Also with public safety, service levels, deferral on the increase of service levels, especially with the paramedic service. The original request came through. We said, not at this time. What can we defer? So it was a team effort, certainly with all departments, but especially with public safety. Moving down to community services, again, service levels are intact. We didn't cut any services. But we did ask them to continue to focus on cost recovery, and the results of those efforts are included in the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. On the development services side, we did three things. One is we prioritized the existing capital projects. So we went through everything that's in the queue and said, what's midstream that we can complete or should complete now? What hasn't been started that we don't need to start? And so we have over 40 different projects. They went through the entire list to help us with managing cash flow while we're in a deficit position. We also prioritize the use of restricted funds. I mentioned the road repairs. So to the extent that we could perform services with restricted money, with the intention of protecting general fund unrestricted money, we did those, and that we built that into the budget as well. And similar to other departments, we asked them to defer capital investment whenever we can. And then ultimately, we get down to the support service, general government. Again, the general government function includes the city council department, city manager department, finance, human resources, general services, including IT, and governmental affairs. And the purpose of that entire function is to support the other three service lines. And so to the extent that what we were doing on the support side was looking at what was being tasked with the service lines and then ramping up or ramping down accordingly. And so if the idea was, hey, how do we ramp up or ramp down support? It's an indirect result of ramping up or ramping down what we actually do. Public safety, building, and entertaining on the community services side. Based on these guidelines and these strategies, we know going into it that we have a deferral problem. We've asked everybody to hold off on capital, hold off on ramping up services to requested levels while we figure it out. And so we know with the result that we've got deferred maintenance. There was a speaker earlier that talked about a 102-year-old building. The police department and city hall aren't 102 years old, but they do have ongoing repair costs. And so we know that a lot of this stuff is getting pent up, and to the extent that we are looking at a long-term solution, deferred maintenance needs to be part of that discussion as well. All right, jumping into the key results. We're going to cover, we have a lot of different funds as we've been mentioning, but we're going to cover two of them, the general fund and the new public safety fund from an operating standpoint. Then we'll jump into capital right before we wrap it up. So two funds here, starting with the general fund. Big picture, the general fund has projected inflows of $35.8 million this year. That is up from $32.7 million last year. One key component of that is last year we had ARPA money, a little over $2 million of ARPA. We don't have it anymore, it's gone. And so that $3 million increase includes a reduction of over $2 million that we got last year with ARPA. So pretty decent result on the revenue projection side. On the outflow side, which includes expenditures and transfers out, we are up to $40.2 million, which gives us a projected, if you take the inflows minus the outflows, we have that projected budgetary deficit of $4.4 million in the general fund. Last year, that number was $2 million. And so the general fund, the composition of it is slightly different this year, but for big picture purposes, we've gone from a $2 million deficit up to a $4.4 million deficit in our general fund. A little detail over here on the right is inflows and outflows. On the inflow side, I wanted to highlight two. One is property tax, one is sales tax. On the property tax side, in the general fund, we have 9.6 projected. One key thing with property tax in the city is as a resident, when I pay my property tax bill, the city doesn't get 100% of what's on that property tax bill. It doesn't go to the county and the county gives it to us. We get a percentage of the 1% general levy on that property tax bill. And so that percentage of what we get is 22%, roughly, of the 1% general levy. School districts get about half, and special districts get a quarter of it. We get the other 22%. And so it's important to note that while nobody likes taxes or paying property tax bills, what actually comes to the city to pay for local services is 22% of that general levy. That equates to about $15 million. 1/3 of the property tax dollars that hit the city have been committed by the city council to pay for fire protection services. The remaining 2/3 are received in the general fund, and that's how that 9.6 is calculated. On the sales tax revenue side, a similar issue where the sticker price is not what the city gets. So locally, our sales tax rate is 7.75. City doesn't get 7.75 of sales tax. The state gets 5%. The county gets 1.75%. The city gets 1% of the 7.75. So significantly less than 7.75%. That equates to $5.6 million, the way that it currently stands. On the outflow side, the three main components of our outflows are salaries and benefits, $12.2 million this year. Operating expenses plus, these are what we call roll-up codes for the budget, but that plus means that there's other stuff in there. So it's operating expenses, plus there's a contingency amount, plus a cost allocation. All of those things wrapped up equals $11.3 million this year. Last year, it was $20.5 million. The reason for that change has to do with this last item, transfers out, where it went up to $16.7 million. Last year was $3.5 million. And the reason for that is we are funding public safety in our public safety fund now, and we're making a backfill transfer out of the general fund to fund police in the public safety fund this year. So last year they were here in operating, this year they're in transfer out. Put them together and you get big picture, big dollars, you get roughly the same result. Okay, jumping to our second fund. One thing before we get to this fund, I just mentioned $4.4 million deficit in the general fund. You may have 7.3 stuck in your mind. The reason for that is the 7.3 is general fund plus the public safety cost. Together is our $7.3 million deficit. So both numbers are right. We're just adding them together, 2.9 and 4.4 to get to our 7.3. All right, so on the public safety fund, again, this is a new fund. Previously, costs were split between the general fund, the fire fund, and the paramedic fund. Now all the costs are included in our public safety fund. There are public safety costs of $23.5 million projected in fiscal year 25. This fund, the way it was set up, it's forced to zero out, equal zero. So inflows and outflows equal 23.5. The way we do that are subsidies, transfers. And so we have a $2.9 million transfer from fire as the backfill transfer for the fire operation. And then for the police operation, we have this backfill transfer of $14.8 million from the general fund. Over here, contracted services, we contract with San Bernardino County Sheriff for police services of $13.6 million this year. We contract with CAL FIRE for fire and paramedic, 5.3 on the fire side, 2.1 on the paramedic side. All the costs are included in this fund. That's just the contracted services component. If you add those up, you're not going to get to 23.5. You're going to get slightly less. There's also public works that's included in here for building maintenance of the police station and a couple of fire stations. And there's also our public safety division, which is a division under the city manager's office that's included in this public safety fund. Dedicated revenues, I mentioned that 1/3 property tax commitment from the city council. That's that $5 million here. And then we do have a paramedic assessment that's $1.1 million. And that is that assessment that does not have an increase. It's just a flat $1.1 million since the inception of that assessment. So that fund is zeroed out, but that transfer, that $2.9 million transfer in the fire fund is included in that deficit number to equal the 7.3. It's confusing. The next set of graphics are supposed to make it less confusing. The intent here is just to simplify the understanding of the flow of funds and how the city of Yucaipa funds public safety. These are funds. So the big fund is the general fund, and again, we have a $4.4 million deficit in the general fund. The smaller red circle represents the fire fund, and we have a $2.9 million deficit in the fire fund. Both of these have a public safety component. So there was some confusion over the last couple of weeks of what is our public safety deficit. You can split this. There's not a straightforward answer, but you can see what the city spends on, how it funds everything, and you can say, well, that deficit is all public safety, or you couldn't say none of it's public safety, but you could say it's all everything except public safety. It just kind of depends on how you look at it. This is going to be looking through the lens of the public safety, and so from a public safety funding lens, this is kind of the picture that we're going to look at. On a side note, that fire fund with that $2.9 million deficit, what that represents is the chewing up of accumulated resources in the fire fund. That's not a new issue. We've known about that for a long time. Back in 2020, there was a sales tax measure because there was an issue with, at that point in time, it was communicated a paramedic issue was going upside down. And so that challenge has been ongoing for many years. Following the failure of Measure E, there were no changes in service levels. And so what's happened is that trend, that issue has continued to ramp up. It's gotten bigger. And at this point, we are getting really close to being forced to act to correct all of that. But two separate buckets, general fund, fire fund, add them together, that's our $7.3 million deficit. The way this works, this is our, we're starting to see how we fund public safety. Here, what we're showing is that $14.8 million transfer out of the general fund, which is included in that $4.4 million general fund deficit. It includes that transfer out. And then the fire fund is going to transfer $2.6 million to public safety as well. There's also a $300,000 capital transfer that's included. That's why the 2.6 is not 2.9. There's a capital transfer in there as well. It's important to note as we look through that, that's a chunk right there, $14.8 million. Coincidentally, if we were to look back at the general fund and look at all of our sales tax and all of our property tax in the general fund, in 25, that number on revenue is $15.2 million. And so if we took all of that revenue just for public safety, it's pretty near a wash on just the police component of public safety. So that's a coincidence, but you can kind of see the magnitude of the challenge with funding public safety. Yeah. And then this is where the public safety fund comes in. And so that overlay represents the new public safety fund. The overlapping components represent the fiscal dependency on other funds. We've got an overlap right there with a $14.8 million transfer. We've got an overlap there with a $2.6 million transfer from fire. And we have our $6.1 million dedicated revenues, which are the $1.1 million parcel tax, paramedic tax, and a $5 million property tax commitment. So that's how we fund public safety. We kind of heavy lift on the general fund side, heavy lift on the fire fund side, and we get a little bit of what we call dedicated revenue for public safety as well. So $23.5 million of cost, that's the way we fund it. These are not exactly to scale, but pretty close. And so you can see when their last meeting I had mentioned our net cost on public safety in the general fund was like 63%. That's what I'm talking about right there, is that overlay right there is roughly 63% of the net cost of the general fund. This remaining moon here includes development services, net cost, community services, net cost, and the supporting general government, all in this moon. So that would represent 37% net cost over here, 63% net cost inside the overlay. What this does is it shows the challenges. We've heard a lot about, especially tonight, about the partnerships that the city has with the school district and our other partners. A lot of the activities that the city has funded over the course of time. The city does a lot, provides a lot of services, and there's a lot of noble causes out there, and all equally noble. It's just going back to what you alluded to, Mayor, is we need more money, because none of these are bad costs. They're all good costs. We just don't have enough money to pay for them all. Jumping over, this is where we get our first glimpse at the digital budget book. And this will be on the fund summaries page. This is what we call the all fund summary. And what I wanted to highlight here is how we calculate the 7.3 deficit. And so real easy. First column is estimated equity at the beginning of the year. Second to last column is estimated equity at the end of the year. The difference between the first one and the second one is either a plus or a minus. If it's a minus, it's a deficit, and it has brackets. So our general fund has a bracket of $4.4 million deficit. Our fire fund has a bracket of $2.9 million deficits. That's our $7.3 million deficit. Also, our public safety fund right there is forced to equal zero, but you can see the activity in here. That's our revenue, 6.1 million, our cost of 23.5 million, and our transfers in of $17.4 million. This is all the same information that we saw on the previous picture. It's just in spreadsheet form. Sometimes pictures are easier to read than spreadsheets. Same information, just presented differently. But it kind of shows you how everything is related and tracked. And finally, that does it for the presentation as far as operating goes. Again, under this fund summaries tab, every one of our funds will be there. We have a lot of operating funds, but those are the primary ones that we wanted to cover tonight. Jumping over to the Capital Improvement Program, CIP, a couple things to note. One is it's important to remember that the CIP budget does not lapse. It rolls over. And so if we're not done with the project, that capital budget goes on to the next year. So right now, we've got approximately $28 million rolling on the capital side. So we're not asking for authorization to spend that $28 million. That's something that the City Council has previously authorized spending on in previous budgets. And so that's the amount that's out there that just keeps rolling until we finish those projects. It's important to remember that. Everything else that we've been talking about lapses after 1 year. On the new requests for capital for CIP, we have about $6 million in there. 4.2 million of that is the Pavement Management Program, PMP. And so 2/3 of the new ask relates to our road maintenance. And again, that's being funded primarily with restricted funding. As far as the general fund goes, we have a rolling amount of CIP in the general fund, and that number right now is about 250,000 of previously authorized projects that haven't been done yet, so 250,000. New capital requests in the general fund we made an effort to really limit those. In this budget, there's $15,000 of new requests in the general fund, and that's a project uptown. In the Uptown Alley had a match requirement that's being requested and funded from the general fund of $15,000. So in this digital budget book, as you were to look through it, the capital request out of the general fund, the new request is $15,000. Taking a step back, the budget that we covered at the May 13th meeting from a general fund and public safety fund is intact. There were no changes or updates to the numbers that were presented back then. The $7.3 million deficit is the same, no changes. There were, outside of the general fund, there were 3 changes. In this online budget under the introduction tab, when that drops down, you'd see changes from May 13th webpage. You click on that and it would highlight the 3 changes that were made, so you don't have to go through the whole document and search. It'll tell you this is what was in the draft, this is what's in the final, here's the changes. There were 3 of them, and there's a separate webpage for that. With this item, we do have 12 resolutions that we're going to be asking for approval for. They're all listed out there. A couple of them are budget approvals. A lot of them have to do with policies. Our salary resolutions are included in there. There are 12, all included as attachments to the item. Once we get an adopted budget, the lifting does get heavier. I've been mentioning the meeting next week where we'll be focusing on long-term solutions. At that meeting, we're going to be diving into how Yucaipa looks fiscally now, how we operate, what our costs are, what our options are. It's going to be a difficult conversation, but I do think that we, the staff, council, and the community, we're up to that challenge. As we go through the financial management process, it requires continuous monitoring, and we have the best information available now that we've ever had. And so I think that while the conversations will be difficult, we're up for it. We're gonna get through it. Our recommendation with this item is the approval of the 12 aforementioned resolutions, including 2024-21, which is the adoption of the fiscal year 25 proposed budget. Also wanted to note that the Finance Committee did review the fiscal year 25 proposed budget at the June 3rd Finance Committee meeting and is recommending approval to the City Council. And with that, staff is prepared to answer the City Council's questions.
Thank you, sir. Questions of staff?
I've got 3 for you. So with the resolution dealing with the pay scale, so what is that, number 5, so 2024-27? You mentioned that in there they are going to create 4 assistant maintenance positions. Why are we doing that?
So those are out of our Public Works Department. As we go through the process of the fiscal year, labor rules change and are updated. As we were going through this year's discussion, there was a challenge with the positions of temporary workers. And so there was an update that was necessary to make full-time a full-time position rather than temporary. And so as we went through that process, we worked with Fermin and his crew to say, all right, if we were to convert the temporary to full-time, what does that look like? And so that number reduced. And then the second component, the 4th one, was added because previously we had an additional request from our landscape company to do landscaping up at Five Winds Ranch. And we did that at the end, towards the end in the 4th quarter of the current fiscal year. As we looked forward, we said, hey, maybe we can do that in-house. We've got camping also going up there. Maybe they can be a liaison in that process. And maybe if we had that person in-house, we can do some other things too. And so we said, all right, let's add 1 more position and reduce our contract with the landscaping company in 25.
So that, based on that, that kind of brings the next question of finances. So we've had temporary people filling the spots before, so it was 3? And then we added the 4th for the landscaping, is that correct? So we had 3 temporaries before, so we're doing 1 for 1, and then we're adding the 4th for landscaping. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, we actually had, depending on the time of the year, we would have up to 7 temporary workers. So the intent here is to have these new proposed full-time positions replace those 7 part-time positions.
Okay, so how does that affect us financially? Bill?
Sorry.
From going from 7 temporary to 4 full-time, how does that affect us financially? We're talking numbers and we're having a hard time meeting numbers. We're gonna create 4 new spots.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm just asking the question that's probably gonna be asked by someone from the public on our meeting for the budget. Why'd you create 4 spots?
Right.
I thought maybe I could just pop in and explain the legal side of it, if that's okay, Mayor and Council. So we're looking at AB 1484, which changed how cities have to interact with temporary and part-time employees. It used to be that the city could hire temporary part-time employees to supplement our workforce. It was usually cost-effective, and it offered those employees a lot of flexibility. Changes in state law that went into effect on January 1st this year that was referenced by staff require us to place those employees in the same bargaining unit as other employees that do same or similar work, as well as offer them the same pay rates and benefits as those other full-time employees, thus negating a lot of the potential advantages of having part-time employees. It's simply more cost-effective to move them over to full-time status.
Okay, thank you.
I would just, if someone asks you, I would just say Sacramento. And then
Copy.
walk away.
All right, I got two more questions. At least that's what I have on paper. Why are we moving the analyst position from senior management to a higher pay scale?
I can address that. So that was to fulfill a commitment that was made when that individual was recruited. They essentially opted to come to the city of Yucaipa from another city.
Budget, we have a lot of people that are over $100,000 a year that make on our staff.
I'd hate
I'm not trying to be the jerk up here,
out
but
one employee there, and I think if we're going to start looking at that, then it needs to be kind of a more across the board situation.
I'm sorry, say again?
I said I'd hate to single out one employee that way. I think if we're going to look at reductions, that needs to be a more comprehensive across the board look.
Okay, I'm just concerned about making that change. And my third question, and Phil, you probably already answered this, but when you look at the proposed budget off the link at the end of your presentation here on the website, the graph or the chart shows that expenditures are much higher from 2024 and 2025 than they were in 22 and 23, exceedingly more. So either I don't look at pictures well and numbers well, or by looking at the picture, it just seems like I know we've had an issue over the past years, but why do we jump so much in 24 and 25?
And which graph are you looking at?
I don't remember what, it was on the website, I'd have to look again. I don't have it up. I just made notes.
So depending on the graph, in some cases, if there's every division and every department has its own graphs. And so picking on finance as an example, it followed that pattern where it ramped up in 23 and in 24 and 25, it was significantly higher than it was in 22 and 23. The context with the finance division is at that time, we, I was gonna say wrapped in, but created a human resources division that rolled into finance. And so that entire division did not exist before 24. And so that one was added on there. So it looks like the cost ramped up. We added 2 FTEs to the department, and costs ramped up because the city prior to that did not have a human resources division, and it was created. But depending on there's context to each one. In general, I think that from a trend standpoint, the general fund would be thank you. The general fund overview would be a great one. One of the things with that digital budget book is it makes that analysis pretty easy, where you can expand the breakdown and you can see jumps or decreases in costs in certain cases. So looking at this, I can look at, how about an all funds summary? And on that all fund summary, we have revenues by source, and then going down, revenue by fund, expenditures by fund. Yeah, maybe that one. If you're looking at the fund summaries, expenditures by fund, Yeah, I'd have to look at this specific chart that you were looking at.
I'll try to find it, and I don't know if my colleagues have other questions, but if I can't get it before the end of the meeting, I'll find it and I'll bring it up to you so you can help me understand. 'Cause
Yes, absolutely.
that was my concern. It just seemed like it jumped quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I probably missed something, so let me see if I can find it in the meantime.
The one particular spot that you could look would be the general fund. That's a great one because that's our primary operating fund. And I believe the number went from 34 million to 40 million this year. And so that would be, from a big picture standpoint, the general fund, what are the costs in the general fund? And that would be a good trend to review. On that front, we have increases on the general fund side. We had a $2 million increase on salaries and benefits. One of them is an increase in temporary staffing on the community services side. They had a ramp up in, you heard the superintendent talk about it a little bit, but the partnership with the STARS program, that's a lot of temporary salaries, and there's a significant increase there. And then we also had our pre-negotiated MOU that rolled into salaries as well. So depending on what you're looking at, there's.
So I think I've got it here. I forgot I'd taken a picture of it. So it is the budget and historical 2025 expenditures by fund. And so you've got, there's several funds, but it's not a pie chart.
Is there a page on there?
To
for
graph.
the-
I don't have a page because I took a screenshot of it.
Yeah, that's on the fund summary. So for those listening, it's going to be on the fund summaries, on the all funds summary page. And then you scroll down and you can see a couple of bar charts and you can see the spike. What you can also do that might be helpful is there's right below that graph, there's a spreadsheet breakdown with a caret. If you click that caret, it'll expand and give you a lot more detail on the compilation of those costs.
Okay.
A down arrow.
That's all I have for now. I'm delaying everybody, so I'll get with you later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilman Duncan, you have questions, comments?
Have we implemented a hiring freeze at this point, since we can't really afford any more employees?
We have not implemented a hiring freeze. However, included in the resolution, there are, I believe, 5 positions that are vacant. And while we haven't said that there's a hiring freeze, we have also said they're vacant and not budgeted. The position is included, but we're not funding the positions. And so we haven't technically implemented a hiring freeze, but there are, I believe, 5 positions on that salary schedule that are indicated where those are not budgeted. And so some may say that's sort of like a hiring freeze.
So I've heard a number of 2.2 million deficit last year, now it's 7.3. And I think there's been some talk about 10 and 15. So next year, all things considered the same, we're going to be looking at, instead of 7.3, we're going to be looking at what, 10 next year? 15?
Yeah, I'd say based on what we're looking at now, it's 7.3 now. Again, we've got a lot of deferrals built into that 7.3. When we started, we were over $15 million. And so we were pushing things out, deferring different things, and we got it down to 7.3. At some point, those deferrals need to be addressed. If something breaks, we have to fix it. And so I'd say 10 conservatively is based on normal contract increases. We're going to be at least 10, but it could be worse than that when those deferrals come due as well. We're ramping up quickly we're diverging quickly on the deficit side.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable, questions, comments?
Yeah, you keep on saying that we need money, and I'm gonna pick on all of you, not just one. raises and the salary and stuff, I guess we approved that already. You had made mention to that, right? And
Yes, the negotiation with we have two bargaining units. And so those are the current, we're entering the second year of a 2-year agreement. And so each 2 years, there's a renegotiation. And so the prior negotiation wrapped up in May of last year, a little over a year ago, and that was good for 2 years. And so the workforce entirely follows a 2-year agreement. And so the next negotiation will take place at the end of this calendar year for fiscal year 26.
And can you postpone that until we get ourselves into a better situation? I mean, because we're talking, I mean, there's $40,000 raises in here.
So there's, once we have the agreement, we operate based on the agreement. Once the agreement expires, before it expires, we negotiate a new agreement. And so we can negotiate whenever.
So how does that make the city look of us taking, we're going into a deficit and we're gonna, I understand that we've passed this already and stuff, but we can postpone it, can we not?
It's called a contract, is it not? Are we contractually obligated to provide them with the raises we agree to?
Yeah,
So the answer is no, right? We cannot break our contract?
Yeah, I misunderstood the question. Yeah, we have negotiated, we've entered a contract and MOU with the bargaining units. And so to not follow through with that would.
Mr. City Attorney, liability for violating a contract we've entered into for pay and benefits?
If the city is, experiencing a significant fiscal crisis or emergency, we can, of course, always entertain the option of going back to the table.
Correct.
And attempting to renegotiate.
Yes.
But I would say simply unilaterally not following through with the terms of the MOU would likely be an unfair labor practice, exposing the city to significant liability. Generally speaking, when you're looking at going through that negotiation process with your labor groups, you would want to be able to explain that you've exhausted all other opportunities before seeking to renegotiate a contract that has already been negotiated. The other thing that I would point out is that as the city is a primarily contracted workforce, especially in terms of public safety, your ability to control the wages, salaries, and benefits of the individuals that perform services for the city is extremely limited, primarily consisting of City Hall administrative employees.
In other words, we don't negotiate pay benefits for sheriff's deputies or firefighters.
Correct.
Right.
They hand us a bill, we pay the bill.
Sheriff's deputies are under contract with the county, and our firefighters are under contract with CAL FIRE. They control the salary benefits for those individuals.
What's an emergency? I mean, what's the amount of money, I mean, that you go into that's an emergency to recall this pay raise?
So I think that would be appropriate perhaps for a confidential legal memorandum that I could write to the city council, going into exactly what factual circumstances would warrant an attempt to renegotiate an MOU with one of our bargaining groups. It's not something I would necessarily want to discuss in open session on the dais.
One other piece of information, I believe Councilman Thorpe had suggested that. Last year, we did contract for a class and comp study to see where salary levels were compared to our peers. And so we're at the tail end of that study with the third party. And so into the later part of the summer, we're anticipating the results of that. The intent of that would be to get those results and then use those in the upcoming negotiation to say, this is where the city is compared to.
Yeah, but are the other cities going into $7.2 million deficit?
I would anticipate that not all of them are, yeah.
Okay.
And so, Councilmember, just to give you a little bit of context, I started my career in a city not too far from here, facing over a $40 million deficit. That city went into municipal bankruptcy to attempt to correct its finances. And even they did not impose across the board cuts to salary. They did furlough employees, which means they reduced the number of hours that those employees were required to work. And that was, again, pursuant to labor negotiations with those employee groups.
Yeah, I'm not asking not to give you guys the raises, but maybe to postpone them for a while until we get ourselves back into a little bit of a
I don't think that's
better
gonna,
situation.
I don't think that's gonna solve the problem, though.
No, it won't solve the problem,
Certainly
but I mean, it sure.
$40,000 isn't going to
And
save.
I don't wanna, I don't even know what it would take at this point. It blows my mind. It just bumfuzzles me how we got here, but trying
So-
to figure out how to fix it's interesting.
The thing is, if, by all means, I've seen this now for the last, I think, week, where we have our finance tool online for us to use. I'm excited about Monday's meeting. It's gonna be horrible, but I'm excited because there's not a lot of extra stuff there. And if we, look at, I'm gonna use an analogy because it helps my simple knuckle dragging mind to comprehend this. When my household is in a deficit, I have two options. And those are the only two options I have. I can either approach my boss and ask for a raise. In this analogy, the taxpayers of Yucaipa are the boss, or I have to stop spending money. All right. Whomever wants to suggest we stop spending money, tell me where. Where are we going to stop spending? Roads? Good luck. Show me on social media one day where we don't talk about how bad our roads are. So we'll stop spending money on roads. Public safety? Cool. Well, 20% of our deputies gone tomorrow. We don't need them, right? Firefighters? There's no real fire danger in Yucaipa anyway, is there? I'm being facetious, of course. I don't know where we're going to cut the money from. I don't see it. But also, I'm not an accountant. So there's only two analogies that work. Either we seriously cut funding, and if that means we see an altogether different Yucaipa than the bosses of the city, the people who tell us what to do, they dictate that. And we see a different Yucaipa tomorrow because we have to stop spending money. And if we say we're going to, well, okay, fine, we'll stop spending money on Autumn Fest, the one that generates revenue. How about the rodeo? We'll stop spending money on the rodeo. That one generates revenue as well. So we're going to stop spending money on the things that actually make us money? That's asinine. What? Shut down City Hall. All right, less opportunity for you to build a pool in your backyard. In this economy, I'm not sure exactly who's building pools in their backyard, but you're not going to be doing it because we don't have the staff at the desk to look at your permits. It's really not rocket science. I'm a Yucaipa High School graduate with very little advanced education, and I can tell you right now, it's money doesn't lie. Either we have more money to spend, or we stop doing the services that we have. But I'm telling you right now, it was irresponsible and reckless of us in the years past to burden our assistant city manager with all things human resources. I'm sure the federal and state labor law is easy for you to memorize. We're not exposing ourselves to liability there, but we'll run the shop with you carrying that hat as well. What were we thinking? So did we expand on our finance director's budget? Yeah, to prevent exposing us to further liability because that law, labor law, is the one that gets every municipality in federal court every single time. But we were going to do it because we're reckless back then. So did we spend more money? Sure did. That's why when I look through this budget, we did. We made expenditures that needed to be done. So we didn't find up in federal court defending while somebody who didn't know the labor law was violating the labor law. But now we have a human resources director who knows the law. And we operated for decades under the mantra of we'll build it and that will generate more revenue. And that's a great idea in theory, but guess what? The revenue hasn't caught up. And in that time, our deputies have gotten raises, our firefighters have gotten raises. The cost of living has gone up so much and we can't keep up with it. It's not rocket science, it's just economics. Inflation is high everywhere else, but Yucaipa is immune. Monday the 17th is going to be a fascinating day. I'm looking forward to everybody offering their opinions, their suggestions, because at the end of the day, we need to find $7.2 million, either by way of revenues or by way of cuts. And we will. Yucaipa will be here tomorrow. The sun will come up and we will still be Yucaipa. We just may look different. Further? Anything further? Sir? All right. On this agenda item, we will need a roll call vote. So is there a motion first to approve item number 13 with the recommendations 1 through 12? No motion?
Oh, you got a call or?
No, we're going to motion first, then we'll do the roll call vote. So is there a motion at first to even get off the floor?
See, for all 13 of them, because I have a couple of things, I'm not going to vote for all 13 of them as they are. There's 2 of them I'm going to make a recommendation on.
Did you want to make the recommendation so that we can see if it can be amended?
5 and 6, I was going to say, not as they stand. So 6, no, 5, see if we can change it from 4 to 3.
Is that because, are these
the rest
contract-related issues, Councilman Thorpe? Are they contract-related issues?
No, 5 is the one for the temporary employees to full-time. And then 6 is the pay scale change for the management position.
Mr. City Manager?
Council's prerogative. If you're asking my personal thought on it, we have a meeting Monday night to talk about how we're gonna go about fixing this problem. We're not gonna fix it by understaffing our public works department.
They're the ones who do the roads, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You know, we're not gonna solve it on the back of one employee who was promised something when he came here a year ago. We have a lot of really tough decisions to make in the days ahead to really solve this problem. And I would encourage this council to focus on actual solutions that will solve the problem as opposed to things that are just kind of done for show. If it comes to, making really hard cuts, those cuts are going to be felt across the entire organization. Because we spend more on public safety than anything else, and you saw, the circles with the crescent, 63% of what we spend in the general fund goes to public safety. If it comes to solving this problem purely by cuts, there's no way to get to where we need to be without cutting deeply into public safety. But if we get to that point, you can bet we're going to be cutting everywhere. And so I think, I think what we need to do is focus on finding the solution. And I would encourage that that with this budget, as we did last year, over the past months, your departments, your staff have worked very hard to go from a situation where we're looking at, we were staring down a $15 million deficit, and to cut that back and cut it back and cut it back and cut it back to a point where we're at a $7.3 million deficit this year, with the idea that, okay, we know we're going to be deficit spending one more year. That's what this budget is we're talking about tonight. And now we're going to go on Monday night, and we're going to focus on solving the problem.
Do we need these positions?
We
The
wouldn't be
the 4 full-time public works and the analyst position, do we need that?
We wouldn't be recommending them if we didn't think we need them. However, we work for the council. If you tell us cut back, we'll cut back, and we'll make do.
So how many positions in Public Works do we have if we don't have these 4 right now?
Are you asking how many part-time employees we have
No,
now?
we got rid of the part-time employees because we can't do that anymore for council here because of litigation up north. So if they go away, how many Public Works people do we have that these 4 people would be joining if we don't get them?
I believe it's 9.
So we currently have 9 employees.
I'm looking for the number of the maintenance worker 1 and 2 positions.
Do we need a 4-0 vote on this, or is this just normal?
To answer that question, you need three votes in favor of any of these resolutions. I believe the city clerk also had a recommendation to get a motion to approve 1 through 12 with the exceptions of 5 and 6, so we can at least clear out the perhaps non-controversial items, and then maybe look at those 2 other resolutions by themselves.
But has there been a motion made?
No, it's a recommendation.
I make a motion that we approve item 13, resolutions 1 through 12.
Seconded. Any further discussion? Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
To
So we're
clarify,
voting on all
Mayor, that
13?
is to approve all 12?
12.
Okay.
Councilmember Duncan,
Yes.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Nope.
Councilmember Venable,
Nope.
Mayor Weaver.
Yes.
Motion fails.
Is there a motion to approve item 13 with 5 and 6 removed?
I'll make that motion, all but 5 and 6.
All but 5 and 6, yes.
Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Duncan,
No.
Councilmember Thorpe,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Venable,
Yes.
Mayor Weaver.
Yes. How do we amend item 5 to move forward, Councilman Thorpe, Councilman, or Mayor Pro Tem Venable?
So I just have heartburn with asking for more people. I know we need people, but I have heartburn with it when we're talking that we're crying that we need money and we're at this big deficit. So
I didn't realize we were talking about
I'm gonna
cuts.
say half of that. So if we can get 2, I'll do a yes.
Can we table it for another time? For us to discuss this?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we could bring this item back on the 24th of this month.
Is that for item number 6 as well?
Yes.
So what I would caution the council on is under California pension law, we need to have a publicly accessible and approved salary schedule for this city so that we're in compliance with CalPERS regulations. So yes, you could
You're
bring this
talking for
back.
number 5?
5 and 6. Those are our publicly accessible salary schedules for our staff. So I, if you can make an amendment to these salary schedules that gets consensus or gets approval, that'd be my recommendation. You can, of course, delay until the next meeting because we'd still be able to approve it. It goes into effect immediately. I would highly recommend that this city have valid approved salary schedules before we start the next fiscal year.
I'm okay with delaying it if we want to have our special meeting first and see how that turns out before we vote on that.
The only thing that I would mention is that those 4 assistant maintenance worker positions, if they were approved, they'd be vacant now. Is that correct? So if you wanted to maybe approve the resolution and maybe defer action on that specific position to a later date, I don't think you're really affecting city operations all that much.
By approving positions
least
to
in
be
the
filled
short
at a
term.
later date.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to defer just the conversation on those 4 positions to 2 weeks or a month or however long, you're slowing down the recruitment process for the positions. So that'd be a delay in the short term. But I think if we're talking about not implementing the salary schedule for the remainder of your employees over whether or not to add these new positions, you could just delay the discussion and the approval of those positions to a later date, but approve the rest of the resolution as is. I'm looking for labor peace here.
I say we just table it and come back to it. I think that'd be the best. That way we can all.
You're the council, up to you.
So delaying it by 2 weeks, you're saying that we should not do that legally?
You can delay it for 2 weeks. If you wanted, I wouldn't recommend tabling it. I'd recommend continuing it for 2 weeks to the next meeting. Regardless, I think you should have a valid salary schedule approved before July 1st, for us to be in compliance with state law. But I think, I'm making a recommendation 1 of 2 ways. Continue it for 2 weeks, or approve it as is, but remove the maintenance worker position authority that you're maybe concerned about, and then maybe just consider that position either in 2 weeks or at a future date.
So overall, I guess I don't like the pay increase for number 6. And then number 5, my issue is asking for more employees when we're looking at, we have a deficit. So we haven't negotiated for these 4 yet, right? So we were talking earlier about stuff that's already been negotiated on a contract. These haven't been negotiated yet.
So those positions, I believe, already exist. We're simply adding more there. I don't think that there would be, is that incorrect? They're new positions. Never mind. So no, they're not represented yet. They're not part of the bargaining unit yet.
So I guess I'm failing to understand, maybe I'm just a slow kid in the class right now, but I'm failing to understand why we want to approve it now and delay it versus just wait until we see what happens on our budget meeting.
That's fine too. Like I said, I'm giving you 2 potential recommendations.
All right, so
I
do we
simply
delay
don't
it?
recommend tabling it indefinitely and not acting on it before.
Do we need a motion and a vote for those as well? All right, I motion that we continue items 5 and 6 till the next regularly scheduled council meeting of the city of Yucaipa. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Thorpe. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. All right, I'm gonna lead off council member reports. June 15th, Saturday, free compost and mulch across from the Equestrian Center. Take advantage of this now for those who are listening, because the following day, after you send the dads to pick up the free mulch, they're not working. They have a pass on that day. No yard work on the 16th. That's Father's Day. They get to sit in front of the TV and watch the game and drink beer. No outside labor. It's dangerous. You don't do that. All right. Anybody else have business to report? No? Mr. City Manager, any announcements?
No, sir.
Next city council meeting will be Monday, June 24th, 24 at 6 o'clock here at City Hall. Don't forget about the Monday, the 17th meeting at the White Pack. See y'all there.
And then Mayor, just a reminder, we're recessing back into closed session. Public report on closed session action will be taken at the next regular meeting of the city council.
Thank you, sir. Correct.